October 2020. Cowboys versus Giants. Dak Prescott scrambles out of the pocket, gets tackled, and when he rolls over, his foot is pointing at a 90-degree angle that would make a geometry teacher faint. We're talking compound fracture and dislocation, meaning the bone didn't just break, it said peace out and pierced through the skin. The stadium went silent. Cameras caught Dak in tears being carted off, and honestly, who could blame him? This man was playing on a franchise tag, literally betting on himself for a massive long-term deal, and his ankle just decided to audition for a horror movie. The injury ended his season instantly and sparked massive debates about player contracts and the risks of the franchise tag system. The Cowboys eventually signed him to a monster deal, but that image of his mangled ankle, that's burned into NFL history forever. Now, if you think a broken ankle is bad, wait until you hear about the linebacker who literally couldn't feel his legs. Monday Night Football, 2017. Steelers linebacker Ryan Shazier lowers his head for a routine tackle, something he'd done 1,000 times. Except this time, he doesn't get up. He's clutching his spine, motionless, and the stadium falls into that eerie, terrifying silence. Shazier had suffered a spinal contusion, and for a moment, everyone feared the worst: permanent paralysis. He underwent spinal stabilization surgery and months of grueling physical therapy just to stand again. His football career, done, over, finished. But here's the incredible part. Shazier not only walked again, he eventually danced at his own wedding. The man turned a nightmare into a miracle. But his injury sparked major conversations about tackling techniques and led to stricter enforcement of helmet-to-helmet rules. Sometimes the most devastating injuries create the biggest changes. Speaking of career-ending hits, our next injury involved a two-sport superstar losing half his legacy in one moment. January 1991. Bo Jackson wasn't just an NFL player, he was a phenomenon. The man was dominating professional football and baseball simultaneously, making Bo knows more than just a catchphrase. Then came a routine tackle in a playoff game against the Bengals. His hip dislocated. Sounds painful, but fixable, right? Wrong. The dislocation cut off blood flow to his femoral head, causing a vascular necrosis. Basically, his hip bone started dying from the inside. Within months, the tissue deteriorated, and Jackson's football career was over at just 28 years old. He'd eventually return to baseball with an artificial hip. But football? That door slammed shut forever. This injury revolutionized how teams monitor hip injuries and blood flow complications. It also raised serious questions about whether the human body can handle elite competition in two professional sports. Bo knew football, Bo knew baseball, but Bo's hip knew when to tap out permanently. But wait, some players don't just recover from devastating injuries. They come back better than ever? Final game of 2011. Vikings running back Adrian Peterson takes a hit that tears both his ACL and MCL. His knee buckles inward at an angle that makes medical professionals wince. Most players would miss an entire year. And even then, few return to anywhere near full form. The conventional wisdom: his elite days were over. But Peterson isn't most players. In less than 9 months, he returned to start week 1 of the next season. And then, he rushed for 2,097 yards, just 8 yards short of the all-time single-season record. He won MVP. He defied medical science. He basically told modern sports medicine, "Hold my Gatorade," and went full superhero mode. The sheer willpower, determination, and physical recovery required made this one of the greatest comebacks in sports history, not just NFL history. Peterson's injury and recovery changed how we think about ACL tears and accelerated advancements in knee reconstruction techniques. Now, sometimes an injury isn't just physically painful, it's emotionally devastating in ways you can't even imagine. Browns running back Nick Chubb, one of the league's most respected and powerful runners, suffers a knee injury so graphic that ESPN refuses to replay it. His knee gets struck from the side and folds inward at an angle that violates the laws of human anatomy. Multiple torn ligaments, dislocation, structural carnage that requires extensive surgery. The emotional toll? Massive. Because this was Chubb's second catastrophic knee injury. He'd already overcome a similar devastation in college. One of the league's best backs, watching his knee explode again, questioning whether his career could survive another rebuild. This injury reminded everyone how fragile greatness can be and sparked renewed discussions about player safety and the long-term viability of running backs in today's NFL. In an era where running back careers are getting shorter by the year, Chubb's injury became a harsh symbol of the position's brutal reality. But here's the thing. Some injuries don't just end careers. They end lives as we know them. November 1991. Detroit Lions offensive guard Mike Utley dives to make a block and never gets up. He fractured his 6th and 7th cervical vertebrae, paralyzing him from the chest down. As medical staff rushed onto the field, the gravity of the situation became clear. This man's life had just changed forever. But as he was carted off the field, Utley did something that became iconic. He gave the crowd a thumbs up. That single gesture of defiance and hope became a symbol of courage in the face of unimaginable tragedy. Utley never played again, but he founded the Mike Utley Foundation to support spinal cord research, turning his pain into purpose. His injury, along with similar cases like Dennis Bird's in 1992, pushed the NFL to invest heavily in spinal injury research and better neck protection equipment. Every safety collar and neck roll improvement in the 90s traced back to these devastating moments. Sometimes courage creates more change than any rule ever could. Now let's talk about an injury that wasn't career-ending, but showed just how insane NFL players' pain tolerance really is. 49ers safety, Ronnie Lott shatters the tip of his pinky finger during a tackle. Doctors give him two options: undergo surgery that would force him to miss time during the playoffs, or amputate the tip of his finger and keep playing. And Lott, absolute legend that he is, chose the amputation. He literally told doctors to remove part of his finger so he wouldn't miss playoff games. The physical pain of amputation was intense, but Lott later said the emotional pain of not playing would have been worse. This story became legendary proof of NFL-level commitment, and one of the most insane examples of pain tolerance in league history. While it didn't change rules, it changed how we think about the warrior mentality in football and sparked conversations about player safety versus competitive drive. But if you think choosing to lose a finger is wild, wait until you hear about the injury that happened during the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 23, 1989. Millions watching. Bengals defensive tackle Tim Crumry plants his foot wrong during a tackle, and his leg breaks in 4 separate places. His foot was literally only connected to his body by skin. This happened on the biggest stage in football, with the entire nation watching. Commentators went silent, players turned away, medical staff rushed in, and even through the broadcast, you could tell this was bad. But here's what makes Crumry absolutely legendary. He returned the very next season and played 6 more years without missing a single game. The man was built different. This injury led to significant improvements in cleat design and increased awareness about non-contact injuries caused by artificial turf. Sometimes the field itself is the deadliest opponent, and Crumry's Super Bowl nightmare proved it on the world's biggest stage. Now, speaking of nightmare injuries on massive stages, our next one involves a quarterback who basically died and came back. November 18th, 2018. Washington quarterback Alex Smith gets sacked. His leg spirals underneath him and snap. Compound fracture of both his tibia and fibula. Exactly 33 years to the day after Joe Theismann's famous injury, in the same stadium. But wait, it gets worse. Smith developed a life-threatening infection. Doctors performed 17 surgeries. They considered amputation. His wife was told he might die. The recovery took 728 days of hell. Most thought he'd never walk normally again, let alone play football. Then this absolute madman came back in 2020 and actually played. They made a documentary about it called E60 Project 11 because his comeback was so improbable it seemed fictional. Smith's injury revolutionized infection prevention protocols in sports medicine and enhanced treatment procedures for compound fractures. Every orthopedic surgeon now studies Smith's case as a medical marvel. His leg became a textbook example of what the human body can survive with enough determination and medical intervention. The injury that changed everything about how we view football itself. Here's the brutal truth. The worst injury in NFL history isn't one hit. It's thousands of them. Repeated subconcussive impacts destroying brains slowly, silently, and permanently. Junior Seau, Hall of Fame linebacker, takes his own life in 2012, and his autopsy reveals severe CTE. Aaron Hernandez, former Patriots tight end, found with CTE so advanced his brain looked like an elderly Alzheimer's patient's, and he was only 27. Mike Webster, legendary Steelers center, dies homeless and mentally broken after years of cognitive decline. These weren't isolated tragedies. They were symptoms of football's original sin. For decades, the NFL denied any connection between football and brain damage, while players' minds literally fell apart. Then came the studies, the autopsies, the lawsuits, the billion-dollar settlement. This wasn't just an injury. This was an epidemic that forced the NFL to admit football causes permanent brain damage. It led to concussion protocols, limited contact practices, stricter helmet-to-helmet penalties, independent neurologists on sidelines, and an entire generation of parents reconsidering whether their kids should play. CTE didn't just change the game. It questioned whether the game should exist in its current form. If you enjoyed this, make sure to click on the video for more.